Almost ready. All right. Hello and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about what to do when you don't have the energy to do what you think is best for you, when you don't feel like you have access to the motivation to do what's best for you. So if you're exhausted, if you're overwhelmed, if you're feeling sick, if you're feeling like you got your scapegoats, your numbing, your self-sabotage, all of these things, and you feel like what would be something that was actually better for you, something that would be self-care, like you're doing your inner work and you're coming to learn about yourself a little bit more, and you're seeing what overwhelms you, and you're seeing what stresses you out, and you're seeing all of these things, and you know that doing something other than like scrolling on your phone or checking social media or numbing out in front of a TV show or whatever your coping mechanism is, that something would be better than that, right? We're being told by the self-care industry, right? You should take a bath or do some journaling or go for a walk or do some breathing or take a nap or talk to a friend and all these things. And it all sounds so good and it sounds so nice and it sounds so realistic. And yet, when we get to that point where we're exhausted or we're overwhelmed or we're stressed or we're tired or we're in our loops and all these things, our coping mechanisms, our ways that we numb out the things we're addicted to, our scapegoats, and even like I said, if you're a mobilizer type, it can be something like working too hard and continuing to work even though you're tired and finding a new thing to stimulate yourself. And even our minds can sometimes go into a state of like chronically looking for the thing that's wrong and chronically looking for how we're not safe and chronically looking for the thing we need to be on alert about to trigger our cortisol, to trigger our nervous system so that we will not relax. We will stay on guard because our bodies have learned throughout our lives that to relax is scary and bad and leads to bad things. So what to do when we get to this place where doing what we know what would be best for us, doing what we know would be nurturing, doing what we know would be supportive of us healing or resting or something that would be better than our coping mechanism, we just don't have the energy to do it. We don't have the energy, we can't get ourselves to do it, we feel like, oh, I should do this, I really want to do this sounds like a much better idea, I know it would feel good, a couple of other times I've tried it and it did feel good, but I can't motivate myself to do it, I'm just too tired. Or when we have massive resistance to doing what we think would be better for us. Like literally, when we try to get ourselves to do it, when we think about doing it, when we try to change our habits or to get ourselves to do something that would be healthier, and especially when we're in a situation where we feel like a healing protocol or a diet protocol or a spiritual protocol or some new plan or program or system or something that we've done in the past that has helped or could help, that we are kind of convinced would heal us. Like if we could just do the diet properly, if we could just do the meditation practice properly, if we could just do the mental work thing properly, if we could just do the whatever program properly, we would heal. And then we find that like trying to get ourselves to do it requires so much discipline. It's like literally trying to like corral a cat to go for a walk. It's like it just feels like you cannot get yourself to do it. You cannot get yourself to stick with it. You feel like you're sabotaging yourself every time you fall off. You feel like there's something wrong with you, that you're weak, that you're lazy, that you're not good enough, that you're not strong enough, that you're not committed enough. And again, you're staying sick and you're staying unhealthy or what, in pain or miserable because of you, because you're just weak and you can't do the program. And you feel like, again, like there's some part of you that's resistant to this thing that you know is going to heal you. And you feel like this part of you is bad and it's broken and you need to disidentify with it, or you need to get rid of it, or you need to just overcome it with some sort of Herculean effort. And I want to speak to both of these things today, okay? So what to do when we are literally too exhausted to do what we know would be self-care, and instead we're turning to things that we feel are making the situation worse or numbing us out, or our scapegoats are numbing, our coping, our self-sabotage, our addictions, all of these things. Or when we feel like we have the thing that would heal us, we have the thing that would be right, we have the right program, we have the right understanding, we have the right method of treatment, and we just have so much resistance to doing it. And when we do it, we don't actually feel better. It just feels like hard, and it's hard work, and we keep falling off. Or, it feels better for a little while because we're on to something, but then we fall off the wagon over and over and over again, and we think there must be something wrong with me that I can't stick with this. Okay, so I want to talk to both of those things at the same in this video. So first and foremost, first, I really need to validate everybody on this call, everybody who's watching this video. If you are feeling like you are exhausted, if you are feeling like your nervous system is just completely overwhelmed, if you get to the point at some point, like every day or every week or every couple of weeks, where your brain, your body, your spirit just gets so burnt out, your body is inflamed, your mind is completely scattered and all over the place, you're chronically exhausted. You try and do what everyone else is doing, you're trying to be productive like everyone else, you're trying to just live what you think is a normal life, and you're chronically exhausted, chronically having to cope, chronically having to numb, chronically having to scapegoat, chronically having to turn to addictive behaviors, you're chronically going into nihilism and depression, or you're chronically going into like hyper anxiety, like fugue states where you lose yourself in your work or you lose yourself in your productivity, and then you get to the point where you just crash, like you absolutely crash. There is nothing wrong with you. Okay? There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Again, I know a lot of the time we look at our lives and we think, I'm barely doing anything, or I'm just doing what everyone else is doing, or this wasn't that much work, or I should be better than this. I shouldn't be so weak. I shouldn't be so tired. I shouldn't. And we think there's something wrong with me. Of course, right? Like our natural instinct is to say, okay, like what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with me? What's happening with me that I can't do it, that I can't keep up, that I'm weak, that I'm lazy, that I'm coping, that I'm scapegoating, that I'm numbing, that I'm still turning to my addictive behaviors, I barely do anything, or whatever. It is not you. Okay? We need to zoom out, and I know that this is hard because, again, we are the fish in water. So this is normal. This is what normal has always been to us. So, of course, we don't think to question normal. But I really want to question normal right now. That, again, the systems that we have in our world are completely unreasonable. Okay? It is unreasonable. The amount of work we are expected to do in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. Just when we think about the actual human capacity, we are being trained, like the 9-to-5 workday, which now most people are trying to do way more than that. Like people who are like entrepreneurs or like whatever, like most people work way more than that, and it is absolutely not what the human being was designed to do. Second thing, right? Like the fact that our systems are so set up to train us to think that being independent is the best thing in the world, that being independent, that working for yourself, that living for yourself is the virtuous thing, and being able to provide for yourself and sustain yourself and all this shit, that is a manipulation of the system that is not, again, based around how human beings actually function. We are communal beings. We always have been. We survive best together. And that is the reality of life, okay? So this is why I say, like, right, when we're working with codependency versus interdependence, it's not as simple as you're just going to become completely independent and understand everything that you need, because you are always going to exist within a system. And this is why I always say, like, we're also afraid we're going to be like completely cast out, and it's like that's never going to happen, because again, right, like you are reliant upon technology you didn't build, you didn't create, you don't maintain every single day. Infrastructure, all of these things. Society works because we work together, okay? And this idea of ultra independence is how the people who are in power, right, the people who run the means of production, have manipulated us into accepting this system that is fucking all of us over. You see? Because in order for the system to work, we need to be squabbling among ourselves and thinking if we're failing and if life is hard and things aren't going well, that it's something wrong with us, so that we don't look out and go, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Why are there no social safety nets? Why do we not work together? Why do we not have a community where it's like literally all of us survive better, thrive better, when all of us bring our whatever unique skills to the table and we share it with each other? Okay, so the more we're being trained that being independent and being by yourself and doing everything yourself and working all the time, and if it's not working for you, work harder, be more disciplined, that is just how you keep giving to the system that is robbing you. Okay, because again, those at the top who own the means of production, the harder we, the workers, work, the more profit they make. The more we say, okay, well, I'm not doing as great as I want to be doing, I need to work harder. We are now a cog in the machine that works harder, that produces more, that they are making the money off of. You see? So this whole idea, this stress that we're constantly in, that we're supposed to be independent, working for ourselves, providing for ourselves, everything we do is this ultra independence, and if we're failing in any way to provide for ourselves completely, we suck. This is a manipulation, and it's constant stress because it doesn't align with how we function as human beings. Healthy societies, and these things do exist, healthy communities understand cooperation. And again, it's not communism. It's not we all pretend we're one thing and everything's equal and no one gets an identity. It's not that. Okay? That is a manipulation. People who are in power want us to believe that any form of socialism, that any form of community cooperation means losing all your rights and losing all your freedoms, and now you just become a number. And it's like, you are already a number who has no rights and freedoms. That is the system we already live in. Hello, I know that that's uncomfortable, but literally, we are all cogs in a wheel, striving to find our identity and our independence in what we can produce, because what we produce is best for these people who own the means of production. It's not for us. It's not for our benefit. You have to understand this, right? Like celebrities who make millions of dollars are making infinitely tiny amounts of money compared to how much they're worth, because the people that own them are making all the money. People who are entrepreneurs who invent something amazing, what always happens? They got bought out by a big company. Why? Because the big company owns the means of production. The investors, the people who own the shit, make the gabillions of dollars. They are the gabillionaires. The millionaires are little just carrots on a stick that the gabillionaires dangle in front of our faces to be like, see, you can have success. If you just work harder, it will work out for you. And it's like, no, in order to create that, you have to literally sacrifice everything about yourself in order to become something that is productive and valued by our society, that is completely exhausted, that is completely numbed out, that is completely fried and frazzled and only essentially wants distraction and entertainment and something to numb us out, and we want quick, we want fast, we want things that are shitty for the environment, we want things that are shitty for our health, we want all this stimulation, we want all this numbing. So you have to essentially sacrifice your humanity in order to become something that society deems valuable. And then in order to do that, you can either kill yourself or you'll become a millionaire. But right, how many stories of celebrities who become celebrities and then realize they hate everything and then kill themselves do we need before we realize this system doesn't work? Okay, so again, this isn't to say that everything about society is messed up. This isn't to say that there's no good. This isn't even to say that what we're doing is wrong, because we are going to learn from this. I think we are having an awakening right now where we're realizing, hey, okay, the Great Awakening isn't some like spiritual thing where we all just realize something and then magically the world shifts to another dimension. Like, that's not what it is. The awakening is like, oh, okay, whoa, the systems that we have are messed up, and it's not our fault that we're not thriving in them. We're not thriving because the system isn't set up for us to thrive. The system is set up for us to sacrifice ourselves, sacrifice our humanity, sacrifice what would actually make us happy and fulfilled, so that we can maybe be rewarded by this system that essentially is just continually set up to profit those who own the means of production. That's what is messed up about this. We are going to realize that massive groups of people are intentionally held out of access to certain parts of society so that they can be scapegoated, so that they will turn to crime, they will turn to desperation, they will do whatever they need to do to try to survive within a world where they are not given equal opportunity. And then we can criminalize them, we can other them, we can blame them, we can scapegoat them and be like, see, they are coming for your shit. Let the state, let the powers that be stay in control to protect you from those evil people. And also, it makes it so that we are complicit in the exploitation, where we are so exhausted, we are so afraid for ourselves, we are so chronically feeling unstable. Again, there's so much manufactured insecurity in especially the Western nations that are so rich. Like, the fact that we have billionaires and homeless people means we have manufactured insecurity. The fact that we have the technology to feed everyone, and yet we have thousands of people and around the world, millions of people, billions of people that die every day from starvation, means there is manufactured insecurity. Okay, so we have innovated. We have come up with technologies. We have come up with solutions to a lot of these problems, and they are not happening because that's not profitable. And then we feel continually drained, continually like we're not good enough, because again, so long as we believe we're not good enough, we will keep working harder. We will keep blaming ourselves for the shit this system is doing to us. We will keep blaming ourselves for climate change. We will keep blaming ourselves for all of the problems that we're seeing, instead of being like, yeah, no, right? The huge corporations have to change how they're doing shit. If all of us get so, like, again, in order for all of us to become environmentally friendly, what do you need? Money. You have to already be rich in order to change, because everything that's available to the average population is shit for the environment. And so that needs to let us know the system itself doesn't work. If the default program, the default system is bad for us and bad for the environment, the system needs to change, not us. Right? What's available needs to change. So again, we're learning from this, we're figuring this out, hopefully. But again, the longer we stay feeling like it's our fault and we suck and everything is in our control and everything that happens to us is because of us and it's some manifestation of our imaginations, and if we just get into a positive mindset, the whole world is going to ascend, this is a fantasy. That's childhood trauma. That's not reality. Reality is, it is not your fault that you're chronically exhausted. It is not your fault that your body doesn't work in this society that we have. It is not your fault that you want to numb, scapegoat, cope, and self-sabotage. The systems we have are not set up to support us thriving. We are not taught how to trust our emotions. We're not taught how to trust our bodies. Because again, if we did, all of us would be like, hey, well, this is shit. This doesn't work. Right? We need something different. So long as we're continuing to blame ourselves and navel gaze and believe that everything is just a result of us, the system doesn't have to change, and therefore it just keeps going. So again, this is not to say that we don't do our inner work. This is not to say that understanding yourself and learning about yourself and self-love and all these things that I practice are useless because the system needs to change. No, it's both. Okay? But we don't want to go too far one way. We don't want to literally believe absolutely everything is to do with us so that we never look at the system. And we don't want to say everything's the system, so we never look at ourselves. We need both. And again, we don't want to say everything about the system is messed up, because that's not true, right? Our technologies, the things that we have figured out some really awesome shit. We have done some really awesome shit. The fact that we are more connected now than we've ever been, the fact that we can understand each other, the fact that we can even understand what's going on in each other's governments and petition and do all that stuff, that's amazing, and we need to be grateful for that. And what we want as an evolution is to understand that we take what's working about what is, and we keep evolving that, and we question the things that aren't working, and we switch them. That's what evolution is. It's both of these things. So, to bring it back to, when you're chronically exhausted, all you want to do is numb, cope, scapegoat, you're addicted, you have all this shit, it is not your fault. The system is not set up to support humanity. So we are all struggling within it. No matter how much you try and check out, like, we have ways of making it better, and I am going to speak to those things, but I just really want us to understand that, because again, I understand wanting to make it that it's all our fault and it's all something with us and it's all this, because then it makes us feel like if I just fix myself, I can feel better. If I just fix myself, I'll fix it, right? We don't want to think that there's a system at play. We don't want to think that there's something greater out there that's dictating all of this, or maybe the reason why we feel that we feel, because then it makes us feel like we can't fix it, like we're not in power, we don't have empowerment within that. But that's not true, okay? So just to remember, okay? We have to look at the system, we have to look at the bigness of it so that we can stop feeling so ashamed for how we are. Because again, there's nothing wrong with you. You are reacting and responding to a situation that isn't supportive of you. You are reacting and responding to a society that isn't set up to support most of us, right? And then on top of that, we have neurodivergence, we have chronic illness, we have trauma from our childhoods, we have ways of being codependent where we never learned how to, like I say, understand ourselves and understand others and have healthy relationships, and we have all this manufactured insecurity, and the only things that have ever been presented to our nervous systems in terms of coping and getting through the pain of that is coping and numbing and self-sabotaging. So our nervous systems learned these things. And now, right, what do we know about the nervous system? When we're scared, when we're in pain, when we're struggling, when we're overwhelmed, when we're overstimulated, when we have that insecurity, which is what the system is constantly pumping at us every single day, all day long, what happens? We go into a state of fear, right? And that's not a spiritual thing. That's a nervous system thing. We go into fight or flight or flee instead of rest and digest. And what do we know about that state? When we are in that state, we are going to do what we have always done. Our nervous system does not want to do something different. Our bodies are saying, we are under attack, because again, how the physiology works, when we sense stress, the body thinks it's going to die. It does not understand the difference between mental stress, psychological stress, emotional stress, relational stress, physical stress. To your body, stress means I'm about to die. Okay? Understand that. So when you're on your computer and you're scrolling and you're starting to get that cortisol from feeling like you suck, your body thinks you're about to die. Okay? And then whatever you did in your childhood, whatever your coping mechanisms were in your childhood and then moving forward, when you felt your caregivers pull away, when you felt abandoned, when you felt rejected, when you felt, that's what your body is going to want to do now in your adulthood when you feel stress. Because it learned way back then, when I feel stress, I do this action, I don't die, that is the thing that saved my life. That's what your body thinks happened. Your caregivers pulled away, you tightened up and didn't have an emotional reaction, you started working hard, you figured out some way of being people-pleasing or working too hard or numbing yourself or coping or stimulating or having something like this. That happened to your body, you didn't die, your body said, okay, good, that saved my life. So now every time I feel this way, what do I want to do? That exact thing. So when you are in a state of stress, when you are in a state of overwhelm, overstimulation, feeling not good enough, feeling like you made someone angry with you, feeling like someone doesn't like you, whatever the stressor is for you. You're not fitting in with your culture. You're trying to fit in, and it feels terrible because it's not what feels good to you. That causes stress. You have trauma, so you're in a fugue state, and you're projecting something from the past onto your present. Anytime that happens, your body says, okay, we're about to die, so now what am I going to do? That thing I've always done when we were about to die, that every single time I lived, and therefore, it was the thing that saved my life. So when you're in that state of stress, and all you want to do is scroll, or overwork, or, you want to go find some drama, you want to stimulate yourself, you want to numb yourself. Depending on whether you're a mobilized type or a freeze type, right? The mobilizers, we're going to go looking for something stressful. We're going to go digging around in our heads to find something stressful to think about that'll stimulate us. We're going to go get a job. We're going to go pick a fight. We're going to go stimulate ourselves in some way. Or we're going to numb. We're going to eat. We're going to drink. We're going to go on the TV. We're going to do something to just turn it off, the flight part of ourselves. Why? Because that's what your nervous system thinks is saving your life. And then we feel shame about it, and we feel guilt because we're thinking, I should be self-loving. I should have had a bath. I should have done something actually productive for myself. But this thing that I did actually hurt myself, and what's wrong with me? Nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're exhausted, you're overstimulated, and your nervous system wants to do what you've always done. Okay, so that's why that's happening. So this is why the first thing that I'm offering, when you are overwhelmed, when you are exhausted, when you are in your fugue state, you're overworking or you're numbing or you're scapegoating or you're self-sabotaging, you're in your addiction, whatever it is, the first step is that you make it safe that you're doing what you're doing. You don't try to change your behavior. You don't try to force yourself to do something different. You notice those thoughts that want to shame you for seemingly making a bad choice, that for coming up with all the reasons why this is going to make it worse, and this is harmful in some way, and now you're even sicker than before, and you're just contributing to your own misery, and what the fuck is wrong with me? The thing we need to do in those moments, first and foremost, is to make ourselves safe that what we're doing. Because we have to, again, work with the nervous systems that we have. And the nervous systems that we have say, when I'm afraid, I'm going to do what I've always done. And what's the number one trigger for our nervous systems, based on how we grew up in our childhoods, where approval equaled getting our needs met, and rejection equaled dying, right? The number one way we stimulate ourselves into fear, which stimulates us into our programs, is to reject ourselves. That cycle where we're trying to get ourselves out of our behavior by being mean to ourselves and trying to force ourselves to do something different and blaming and shaming and scapegoating, that is what's keeping us stuck. So as counterintuitive as it is, the safer you can make it, meaning, and what do I mean by that? What does it mean to make something safe? When you can say, okay, this is what I'm doing, and it's okay. I still love myself. Even if I never learn a better coping mechanism. Even if I never figure out some other way. If I'm just going to scapegoat, numb, cope, self-sabotage for the rest of my life, I'm going to do it loving myself unconditionally. I'm going to stop blaming myself for this. I'm going to realize this is a program I didn't choose. I live in a system I didn't choose. Everything is overwhelming, not because of me. I'm not failing. Yeah, this is painful. Yeah, this is hard. But this is how I'm coping right now. And it is not my fault. And there is nothing wrong with me. And I'm going to make it safe that I do this. And then, yes, all the fears are going to come up. But if I keep doing this forever, I'm going to kill myself. If I keep doing this forever, it's terrible. I'm a terrible person. I'm going to hurt myself. I'm hurting others. It's okay. We literally, the only way we're going to be able to make any kind of progress, if we're going to make progress, is from a place of internal safety. And internal safety is love. Because that is, again, to our nervous systems how we're going to get our needs met. Whether or not it's true in real reality, now in your adulthood, it doesn't matter. Right? Just because you're loving yourself doesn't necessarily mean you can afford food, doesn't necessarily mean you can have a house, whatever. But to your nervous system, when you feel that you are loved, you are going to feel safer. And from that place of safety, if there is some way that you can grow, if there is some way that you can change, if there is some way that you can problem solve what's in front of you, then and only then are you going to be able to do that. You cannot do it from a state of fear. I mean, some of us, we push ourselves and we white knuckle it, and sometimes it works. But long term, like real long-term change, real long-term evolution, real long-term reprogramming of our nervous system, we have to start with whatever you're in right now is okay, and loving yourself safe within that until you feel like something inside of you says, okay, I'm ready to try something new. And then, and only then. Okay, so you work that step of this is where you are, this is what it is, I'm going to love myself safe, and you're going to notice that really, even if you don't change your behavior at all, you stay in your scapegoat, you stay in your coping, you stay in your numbing, you stay in your self-sabotage. The fact that you're loving yourself while you do it, like literally, this is true. The fact that you love yourself while you're doing it is going to mean that it's like 10 or 20% less stressful. And it might actually be a little bit nourishing, because at least that's 10 or 15 or 20 minutes throughout the day where you're triggered into loving yourself, which sets your nervous system into a state of rest and digest. So you may actually not change your behavior at all and find that your coping, numbing, self-sabotaging actually becomes a little bit nourishing because of the way that you're doing it. Because you're creating safety within it. Because you're giving yourself love, which shifts your nervous system into rest and digest, instead of being in your scapegoat, coping, numbing, self-sabotage, and then being in a state of stress and beating yourself up about it. Right? So do that. Practice that. That is the first step. You're chronically exhausted, you're chronically overwhelmed, you're doing your thing that you always do. Make it safe. That. Over and over and over and over and over again. That is the first step. And then, eventually, you might find that you get to a place where your nervous system says, okay, I'm ready to try something new. And then that's where we're going to be like, okay, so let's take a bath instead of scroll. Let's do this instead of the thing that I always do. And most of the time, the step we want to take is going to be too big for us. So rather than trying to jump from scrolling your phone or eating in front of the TV or whatever it is that we're doing, trying to jump from that to like journaling or going for a walk or doing something productive or having a bath or having a nap, whatever, we're not going to be able to make that huge of a leap. We need to be much more gentle with ourselves and say, okay, how about instead of scrolling my phone, I'm going to switch it to playing a game on my phone. So I'm still on my phone. I don't have to actually get up. I don't have to change my routine. I don't have to like really actually do anything all that different. I'm just going to try still being on my phone, but like playing a game that doesn't have ads. So I'm not quite so stimulated, right? I'm going to still watch videos on YouTube, but I'm going to do 10 minutes, 5 minutes of those videos just being something educational that I'm interested in. And then I can keep doing the thing that I usually do, right? We create a little program interrupt with something that's like similar to what we're already doing, but a step above. And then we make room to go and do what we always do. Okay, so this is the huge, 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 big thing. When we're shifting our habits, when we've loved ourselves safe enough that if we feel like we can start to do something new and it's not so horrible, we always give ourselves permission to continue doing what we've always done while we're adding in the new thing. You don't take the old thing away. You don't take the old scapegoat, you don't take the old numbing, you don't take the old coping away. You do both. You do a little bit of the new thing and a little bit of the old thing. A little bit of the new thing, a little bit of the old thing. A little bit of the new thing, a little bit of the old thing. And, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to get to that in a second. We do a little bit of the old thing, a little bit of the new thing, and slowly again, over time, our nervous systems will then learn that the new thing works. Because that's what that's what we're doing. When we're shifting to a new behavior, the reason we have the resistance is because the body doesn't trust that that new behavior is going to save your life. It doesn't trust that it's going to work. It doesn't trust that it's going to do the thing that the old thing always did. So we have to slowly show the body the new thing works while not taking away the old thing, which then just triggers us into fight or flight, which is going to eventually pull us back to our old behaviors. Okay? Safety, safety, safety. Little steps, little things, plus old coping mechanisms. And then eventually, right, we take more and more steps towards more life-generating things, making it completely safe to do the life-degenerating things as much as we need for as long as we need until the new thing genuinely feels like the thing you want to do. That's how we shift the nervous system, slowly over time. We make it completely safe to never change. Until we actually want to change, we make little changes while we hold on to the old thing. And then we just show the nervous system over and over again that the new thing does work. And we are going to tinker with the new thing, because some new thing we're going to try isn't going to work. Some new thing isn't going to feel as good as we thought it was. And we have to try new things, and that's why we hold on to the old thing until the new thing actually genuinely feels like the thing you want to do. That's how we're going to do that. Okay, so I got a question. I know how good journaling is for us, but whenever I want to journal, I freeze. Makes no sense. I have so much to express. It makes perfect sense. You're overwhelmed. And when we're overwhelmed, we don't want more information. And again, like especially in the spiritual communities, we are not taught that our nervous systems are finite. We are already stressed. We are already overwhelmed. We are already, most of us, in a state of trauma. And then trying to blast ourselves with more awareness. And then feeling like when we get awareness, that means we have to do something. Right? Like, it's not like we journal and it's like relieving and relaxing a lot of the time. So much of the time we're expecting this answer. We're expecting ourselves to get an answer. We're expecting ourselves to get a thing that should be the solution to our problems that we should be able to now just act on. And then you wonder why you don't want to journal. You wonder why you don't want to do your self-introspective practices. Because it's just this new thing that you have to do to be a good spiritual person. And it brings up all this extra added expectation when you're already so overwhelmed. Does this resonate? Right? It's like we need to start to make it safe that when we have revelations and that when we understand something, that doesn't mean now we should be able to just act on it. We should be able to just be better. And I'm going to make a whole video on this in coming videos about how learning something intellectually is not the same thing as learning it in our bodies. And our bodies take a lot longer to figure stuff out than our intellects do. Okay? So like when our self-introspective practices make us freeze, we need to trust that. We're not ready. It's too much information. We're expecting too much of ourselves. The journaling isn't just a cathartic practice to help you not blame yourself for what you're in, right? It's now this new thing where you have all this expectation of yourself to figure out an answer and then be able to work on it, and if you don't, you suck. Like, that's what a lot of us are doing. Or like, again, it's too much information. It's too overwhelming. We're not at a place where we need more information right now. Or when we journal and when we self-introspect and whatever, we're so used to blaming ourselves. We're so used to shaming ourselves. We're so used. Yeah. And even just the idea that, okay, so don't journal. There is absolutely no rule that says you have to journal. There's no rule that says journaling is the thing. Maybe you're a verbal processor who does better talking to someone. Maybe you're the kind of person who likes to go for a walk in nature and just let your mind wander. Right? Like, there is absolutely no rule that says that journaling is the thing. And so this actually is the perfect segue into the next thing I want to say. So if we're in that state of stress and we're overwhelmed and we know we want to make different choices, first things first is we make whatever we're doing right now totally safe and we understand why we're doing it. Because that's what our nervous system's learned. Okay? It's okay. Second thing, we make it completely safe that if we never change, that's okay. and we start to find that unconditional love within it. And then when we get to a place where our nervous systems really feel like they want to change and they're in the driver's seat, the body's on board, we make little changes while holding on to the old thing, and we slowly toggle between the two, and we try new different things. Okay? We figure out new ways of doing stuff, we do whatever we're going to do, and then eventually the body will want to do the new thing after so much practice and seeing that it works, and seeing that it works better than the old thing, you will want to do the new thing. But you have to give yourself time and space and safety to do that. Okay, next thing. When we feel, so this is actually the perfect segue to the next thing. When we feel like I have the answer for what I should be doing, right? I have the diet I should be doing, I have the journaling practice I should be doing, I have the healing protocol I should be doing, I have the thing I should be doing, but I can't make myself do it. And when I do it, it's stressful, it doesn't feel good, I'm like using a lot of discipline to make myself do it, and then I fall off and I can't do it, and then I feel bad about myself and I shame myself and I do all this. This is often the body saying, that is not the thing for me. And I know this is so hard for a lot of us who believe in our gurus and believe in our teachers and believe in these spiritual teachers who tell us this is the answer, and if you do this, you will heal. Like especially in the physical world, where so many of these alternative healers and all of these things say, like, if you just do this diet, it will heal you of this thing. You just do your celery juice, it's going to miraculously heal you of absolutely everything. You just do this positive thought work, and it'll heal your broken brain. You just do your journaling, and it'll solve all your problems. And we're told this shit over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where we feel like if we can't make ourselves do it, if we have resistance, or if we make ourselves do it and it doesn't work, that we failed somehow, that we suck. Right? Your head says go, 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 but your body freezes. That's when we say, okay, maybe my body is telling me something here. Maybe my body is right, and it is telling me this thing isn't right for me. This thing isn't going to solve all my problems. This thing isn't right for me right now. This thing feels like a huge expectation of a thing I have to live up to and do perfectly versus something I'm genuinely doing for myself because I love myself. Right? We're getting triggered into that, okay, now I have to live up to expectation. Now I have to do this thing perfectly. And if I fall off, I'm failing and I suck, and it's that childhood trauma, instead of realizing that everything that we're doing should be from a place of, does this support me or not? Right? Like we have this subconscious, like I'm failing the guru, or I'm failing the teacher, or I'm failing God, and like we feel like we're being judged and looked at when we're doing these programs and we're not doing it correctly. Right? And it's all coming from this external place. It is no wonder that we freeze. It is no wonder that we fall off, and it doesn't make sense. Because we're not doing it from a place of like, yeah, that feels like the right thing for me to try right now. We feel like, okay, I have to do this thing, and I have to do it perfectly, and if I fail, I suck. And then we've totally lost the plot of what the whole point of it even is. Which is it actually helping you? Does it actually support you? And if it doesn't, you didn't fail. The thing failed. And we don't see it that way so much of the time, right? Like we're still living in that approval matrix thing. We get a journaling practice or a health practice or whatever, and we put all this pressure on ourselves to do it perfect because we were trained that when we do something perfect, we get approval and then we get good results. But that's not how reality works. Real reality has nothing to do with do the program perfect, you will be approved of, and then you will get results. Real reality works like try a little thing, see how it goes. Did it help? Keep doing it. Did it not? Don't do it anymore. Real reality isn't do something for like 6 months and feel like shit, and then all of a sudden it feels amazing. That is never going to happen in real reality. When you are on the right path for yourself, it might be hard. It might be uncomfortable. It might be challenging. But there are going to be positive benefits that you're experiencing in the moment that make it feel worth it to you. You won't have to be fighting yourself every single day to make yourself do a thing, because there will be positive reinforcement happening immediately. If that is not happening, number one, your nervous system just isn't ready. It's not the time. This isn't the thing for you right now. Or number two, it's not right for you ever. It was something that made sense intellectually that doesn't play out in real reality. But when we have all this pressure on ourselves to do the thing and to do it perfect, and like we're not even, again, realizing, like, why am I doing this? What is the point of this? The point of this isn't to do something perfect so that I did something perfect. Because what does that do in real reality? If you do your journaling perfect, that's not going to magically heal you. If you're doing your journaling in a way that's actually supportive of you, when you journal, it will make you feel better, and it will give you a little insight, a little tool, a little release that'll make you want to come back the next day and do it again. It's going to be subtle, little progress that you do because it's working in your current reality. And over time, the results build on themselves. And you're never going to do it perfect. I've never once done any of my practices perfectly. I've never once followed a diet protocol perfectly. I've never once perfectly done fucking anything. I've made progress. Trying things out, doing what I could that day, doing what felt good, leaving the things that didn't work for me. That's how we make progress. So we have to start to, again, make ourselves safe. That approval is the matrix. Doing it perfect, this perfectionism thing, thinking if I do it perfect, I'm going to get my heaven, that's not how reality works. Reality works by feeling what's actually happening in your current moment, feeling what's actually happening when you do your practice, when you do your thing, and checking in and saying, okay, is there a positive benefit? Is there something in this that feels good? Am I getting something out of it right now? Because if there is absolutely nothing right now, it's all just, if I keep doing this, it might be good in the future sometime. It's not it. It's either not it for you right now, or it's not it for you ever. So we let it go. We let it go. We say, okay, I'm not going to do that unless and until I can do it from a place of modifying it however I need to modify it so that it matches where I'm at, supports what I need in this moment, and actually has a positive benefit in my current reality. If it doesn't feel at least sort of good right now, let it go. In real reality, if what you're doing is truly good for you, is truly right for you, is truly leading you on the path you want to be on, it will have an element of feeling good and giving results right now. It's not going to heal everything. It's not going to feel amazing. There might still be challenge. It might still be uncomfortable. You're going to have to use a little bit of discipline. That's all normal. But it shouldn't feel like dragging a rock up a hill every single day. And if it does, let it go. Trust yourself. Again, that might be your nervous system saying, this thing is not right for me ever. And you need to learn to trust yourself. That when something feels like that much resistance, it's not always because you are just trying to sabotage yourself and you just don't want to do what's good for you. Sometimes that resistance is really your body saying, no, this is not right. This isn't it. This person that's telling me this is a miracle cure is lying, or it just isn't for me, or whatever. What if you were to trust yourself? Again, make it safe that you don't want to do this thing. Make it absolutely safe that you don't want to do this thing. Tell yourself you never, ever, ever have to do it. Make it perfectly safe to never do it. And when that happens, you will have a better idea of if you actually want to do it or not. Because again, if now the new barrier for you to be approved of by yourself is to do the program, You're always going to try to force yourself to do the program because you're trying to earn your own approval. If you approve of yourself, whether you do it or not, and then you still want to do it, that's a good indication that that's something that's right for you. If you approve of yourself, whether you do it or not, and then you still really don't want to do it, don't do it. If you can get approval and you still don't want to do it, don't do it. That is the litmus test. Does this make sense? So when you're really finding something hard and you're thinking you're failing and everything sucks because you can't make yourself do the program, if you were to fully and completely approve of yourself, even if you never did it, even if you never healed, even if you never got where you wanted to go, and again, I understand this is so hard, because again, for a lot of us, we're doing these things because we're in pain, and we want to believe the program is going to heal us. We want to believe the thing is going to fix us. If I could just get on and do this thing perfectly, I'd heal. Because then again, then we can always just say, well, it's the reason I'm still not better is because I'm just not journaling. And then that makes us at least feel when we're in that deep pain that we know what the solution is. Right? So sometimes we fully approve of ourselves. We realize we don't want to do the thing. And then we say, well, now I'm still in pain and I don't have an answer. That's reality and that's okay. You keep making it safe that you're in pain. Loving yourself while you're in pain. Your perception will open and a new thing that you've never seen before will come into your awareness. I promise. But sometimes, again, we have to let go of the thing that isn't working. The thing that we keep trying to force ourselves to do and we can't make ourselves do, we have to let it go in order to make room for being able to see the new thing that is going to work. So if a thing you're doing, you just keep falling off it over and over and over again, it's not working, make it fully safe that you don't want to do it. Completely approve of yourself that you never have to do it. And then if you still want to do it after that, slowly, right? Make little steps towards it. Don't try and throw yourself into like an hour of journaling a day. Be like, okay, I still want to journal. I'm going to try 5 minutes twice a week. Something like actually totally doable. And then I'm going to reward myself with a scapegoat, a coping, a numbing, a self-sabotage, any of my other coping mechanisms. The new thing is not instead of the old thing. The new thing is now in service to helping me practice the new thing and see that it works in my body without feeling like I lose the coping mechanism I've always had, which will trigger me into fight or flight. So we do both for a while. We downgrade the diet, we downgrade the system, whatever, to match where we are, to something that's actually sustainable for us right now. And then we can work up as our nervous system gets used to it. So don't expect yourself to jump into, now I do this self-care practice 4 times a week, 5 hours a time. Right? Once a week for 5 minutes with all of your other stuff. Until that starts to feel normal and comfortable and reasonable, then you can add another 5 minutes. And then another 5 minutes. And then eventually the new thing drowns out the old thing. Okay, so that's the first thing. If you're chronically exhausted, you want to do something new, slowly, again, first step is always make it completely safe that we're never going to change. Then if you still want to, slow increments. You move the thing to you instead of you trying to move to it. Hold on to your old coping mechanisms and slowly shift over with time, giving your nervous system time. Making sure you approve of yourself every single time you do the new thing, and you approve of yourself every single time you do the old thing. You make it safe either way. So the body feels like either thing is safe. And now which one gives me better results? That's what your body's going to learn. Eventually you're gonna do the new thing, literally not using any discipline. It's gonna just be because it feels better. You're gonna learn real pain and real pleasure. You're gonna keep doing the old thing, keep doing the new thing, making it safe either way, loving yourself either way, and eventually your body's gonna get on that the new thing just feels better. and then you're going to want to do that. That's how that's going to work. Okay, and then when we have huge resistance, huge I cannot do this, I freeze, like complete lockdown, again, make it fully and completely safe that you're never going to do it. Fully and completely safe. You completely approve of yourself whether you do this thing or not. Do I still want to do it? And if the answer is no, then we grieve the loss of this thing we thought was going to be the answer. Because that's what's going to happen. Letting go of a thing, saying I still don't want to do it even if I love myself, we're going to be like, well, God, then what's the answer? Because now I don't have an answer. That was my answer. That was my hope. Every time I felt like shit, I could be like, well, it was because you didn't do the thing. And now that I'm seeing I'm never going to do it, I don't have an answer. And then we have to say, that's okay. I make it safe that I'm in pain right now and I don't have an answer. I'm going to be in the unknown for a little bit. Keep making it safe, and I promise you, new awareness will come. New answers will come. Sometimes you have to clean out the closet of the old clothes before you can put new clothes in. So if you love yourself and you still don't want to do it, you're going to grieve the loss of the answer that you thought you had. You're going to keep making yourself safe, and eventually something new will come in, and then you'll use the technique that I talked about, the slowly adding that in, keeping the old thing, right? Or you make yourself completely safe, you still want to do it, bring the program to you. You bring it to you. Don't guilt yourself that you can't do the whole thing. Don't tell yourself, I should be able to this. No. If you still want to do it, you still want to see, bring it to you. Modify the diet so that it actually feels sustainable for you. Modify the technique so that it's just a little bit. That you're keeping enough of the old stuff to sustain you so that your nervous system doesn't freak out. To give your nervous system a chance to see that this new thing works better. And then to slowly build it over time. You'll slowly shift the diet. You'll slowly shift the practices. You'll slowly shift the stuff to be more and more and more of what you're doing and building and building and building on it. But you don't have to jump into the thing. Right? And then loving that part of yourself that thinks that if I do it perfect, I'll get perfect results. Because that's not reality anymore. We don't live in childhood world anymore. It's not about perfection. You just start to say, okay, what is an amount that I can do where I get enough of a positive result that it feels good, but I'm not using so much discipline that I can't get myself to do it. That's the sweet spot. Doing it enough that you get a positive result that actually feels good right now, that you can then build on without having to be so disciplined and without it being so hard that you're exhausting yourself. Because again, remember, you're not exhausted because of you. You're exhausted because the system is messed up. And again, the more of us who do this stuff, the more of us are going to start to rebel against the system, check out against the system, demand new programs because we're no longer blaming ourselves for shit that isn't our fault. That's why this work of the inner work turns you political. It turns you into an activist, eventually. But again, not taking the whole world on your shoulder and not thinking if you're not an activist, if you're not being political and whatever, you're failing. No. We take our time to do our inner work, to do our processing work. But eventually it is going to help you realize not all of this is your fault. You didn't make all this. It's not all because of you. And then you're going to want to help make this world a better place in little ways that you can. Because ultimately, the system also needs to change. So it is not your fault that you're exhausted. It is not your fault that you don't want to. Work with the nervous system you have. Approval is always the number one thing that you give to yourself. We keep practicing that over and over and over again, and then you will figure out what is right for you, what pieces of what everyone offers are right for you, what things aren't, how to alter programs for yourself instead of trying to do it perfect, letting go of things that don't work for you. This is how we figure it out. Making yourself safe so that your awareness can open to new things that you've never seen before versus being in fight or flight or freeze where you can only ever see what you've always seen. That's what this is about. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's validating. You have a nervous system. It's not your fault. Even if you do have the right answer for what you're going to do next. Your nervous system is not your brain. It takes a lot longer to learn that the new thing works. You have to give it a lot of practice, and you can't take away the old thing before the new thing is set in. So slowly, slowly, slowly. And if it doesn't feel any good at all right now, let it go. Okay? Okay. So that's that. You are amazing. There's nothing wrong with you. Our society is really messed up. It's super overwhelming. Trying to live in this world and in this society is manufactured insecurity. It is not your fault. So keep doing all this work, and we will demand a new system together. Okay? But we gotta stop blaming ourselves for shit that isn't our fault. All right. I love you. You're amazing. You got this. You are awesome. Let's evolve together. And I'll see you in the next live, okay? Have a good night, or day, or week, and I'll see you next week.